Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
It's a massive shift for college sports, and tonight, some athletes are already cashing in after the NCAA approved a new policy that allows them to monetize their name, image, and likeness. Big Fox's Matt Kleinden spoke with a local football player and athletic director about the big change.
That's right. Good evening. College athletes at Division II schools like Mansfield University can now capitalize off their name, image, and likeness. And local schools and athletes are now trying to learn the ropes about this new policy. Entering his sophomore season at Shippensburg, Garrett David is one of thousands of college football players who can now make money from endorsements. This is a massive shift from the NCAA, who for years prevented student athletes from getting paid while in school.
It's surprising to me because I've grown up on the idea of college athletes are only doing it just for the love of the game.
Garrett doesn't expect to make any money from this. However, he thinks a few of his teammates may be able to cash in.
There's guys who have like thousands upon thousands of followers online, and I don't see any reason why they can't get thrown a couple $100 just to put a promo on their Instagram page and lose eligibility.
It's not going to be widespread like it might be at with players in Penn State football, for example.
While she doesn't think there will be many students with NIL deals, Athletic Director Peggy Carl says Mansfield will help educate players with the new NCAA rules.
We'll be available to help answer questions. We'll put out a Q&A form for them to have a better, sort of a hands-on piece of information as well.
Despite the major shift in college sports, Garrett believes the athletes will keep a piece of their amateur status.
We still go to class. We still do normal things like everybody else does.
Matt Kleinden, Big Fox, WYDC in Mansfield.
Twin Tiers residents kicking off the 4th of July weekend by flocking to the Finger Lakes. Many of those residents are bringing their campers and RVs to campgrounds like Clute Park in Watkins Glen. Today alone, the park saw more than 30 campers pull in for the weekend, with many reserving their spot 8 weeks in advance.
We have been filled for weeks for this particular weekend. I think the country's really ready to get out after COVID and experience some camping for the first time in a while.
AAA is expecting more than 43 million drivers to hit the road this 4th of July weekend. That is an increase of nearly 2 million drivers from 2019. The latest unemployment numbers were just released, and many economists happy with the news as it shows the U.S. economy is bouncing back from the pandemic. Lauren Blanchard has the latest from Washington.
The June jobs report is out, showing the economy added 850,000 jobs last month. Unemployment staying largely unchanged at 5.9%, though slightly missing expectations. 9.5 million Americans still remain unemployed.
We're on track, and we're on the right track. Our plan is working.
Overall, the Labor Secretary is satisfied with the report.
This is unprecedented times. This is an unprecedented kind of recovery from COVID-19, but all the indications are going in the right direction.
It showed some big losses in construction, but big gains in transportation, education and health, leisure and hospitality, and government as Americans begin venturing out. The report also showed many employees are unsatisfied with their current jobs. 164,000 more people voluntarily leaving their jobs in June.
It's a workers' market. It's a chance for them to get bonuses, wages, and the right fit.
Many employers still struggling to fill open positions.
The economy in a post-pandemic world is having a hard time matching people to jobs open.
Republicans believe the Biden administration needs to immediately end $300 per week extended unemployment benefits. Already, many states have rolled them back to encourage people to return to the workforce.
The single best way to get people back to work is to discontinue a process of policies that make it more lucrative to stay at home than to go back to work.
Federal extended unemployment benefits are set to expire in September. Along with increasing vaccination rates, the expectation is the economy will improve in a big way after Labor Day. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Across the country, the strain of the coronavirus pandemic has caused some nurses to leave the profession. Several hospitals in Pennsylvania are now facing staffing shortages as a result. Amy Wattis spoke with nurses about the problem and possible solutions.
It's time that West Penn leadership listens to nurses, respects nurses, and invests in nurses.
Dozens of West Penn nurses gathered at Friendship Park today, holding up signs and calling on hospital management to agree to a new union contract, stressing that more progress is needed to address the nursing crisis facing healthcare.
We really want to recruit and retain nurses. We've had a lot of nurses leave over the last year especially, and we just have not been able to replace them.
Some of the reasons they left?
There's been so much, sadness and tragedy that they've seen too, that it's been very difficult for people to let go.
Shannon Casey knows all too well what that's like. She cared for patients with COVID at the start of the pandemic, and she personally worked with fellow nurses who couldn't handle it.
I know people that had been in nursing for 50 plus years. They did early retire. I think this freaked them out a lot last year. So you lost a lot of senior staff across the system.
On top of that, burnout from working long hours and extra shifts.
We were pulled to units that we had never been before, just to help out.
UPMC says it's looking at different strategies to retain and recruit.
We can allow people to move around UPMC in so many different nursing roles that we're using that as part of our conversations with staff who feel like they need to change.
Meanwhile, AHN says it's offering a significant sign-on and referral bonus for nurses throughout the network. And despite the challenges, nurses say it all comes down to quality care.
The main thing is just we want things to be better for our patients.
Search operations at the condo collapse in Florida are in their 9th straight day. Work temporarily stopped yesterday due to safety concerns. Madeline Rivera has more.
Crews in South Florida are now in their 2nd week of search and rescue efforts. Officials here now making plans to demolish what's left of the condo building. Rescue teams continue to dig through more than a dozen feet of concrete in Surfside, Florida. Work resumed late Thursday after a 15-hour pause. There were concerns about the stability of the remaining structure after officials say they observed it swaying a bit.
The movement was significant enough where we did 3 blasts of the horn and all the men and women rushed from the site to the water side.
But officials add those fragmented pieces of the tower still pose a danger, and they're considering demolishing the rest of the building. The move could allow for more personnel on the site.
We need to know, what the prescription is to solve the problem if there is a problem. If the building's a problem, the building has to disappear.
As rescue efforts continue, President Biden says Surfside has the full support of the federal government, pledging to cover the entire cost of the operation for the first 30 days. On Thursday, he met with first responders and relatives of the victims. Local leaders say the president moved from family to family, listening to their stories.
What amazed me at this group of people was their resilience, their absolute commitment, their willingness to do whatever it took to find an answer.
Officials here now monitoring Hurricane Elsa, which is expected to bring heavy rain and strong winds this weekend. In Surfside, Florida, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
A key Afghan air base that's been the center of operations there for U.S. troops for the past 20 years has now been handed over to Afghan troops. It's part of the quickening U.S. withdrawal, but some worry the effects could ripple far and wide. Lucas Tomlinson has more.
For almost 20 years, Bagram Air Base, located an hour north of Kabul, has been a strategic headquarters for the U.S. military in Afghanistan. That ends today as the U.S. hands over control of the base to the Afghan military, part of the rapid pullout of U.S. forces that President Biden announced earlier this spring.
It's a rational drawdown with our allies, and it's making so there's nothing unusual about it.
But as the U.S. moves its troops out, the Taliban is looking to move in. Some estimates say the group controls a quarter of the country already, and attacks are on the rise. The New York Times says more than 700 Afghan soldiers and 200 civilians were killed in June, a record number dead, a troubling trend to some in Congress.
But the Taliban is on the offense, and no one is off limits.
Not everyone supports the U.S. losing its largest air base in Afghanistan, located in the strategic position between China and Iran.
First of all, Bagram Air Base, so our audience understands, is a real crown jewel of a military presence in South Asia. I mean, this is why the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians are rejoicing and completely thrilled over our departure, because our strategic presence from that airfield is significant, gives us huge operational reach.
The U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan could be complete by July 4th. Some 650 U.S. soldiers will remain to guard the embassy in Kabul. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
The Boy Scouts have made an $850 million settlement offer to sexual abuse survivors in a case that could make legal history. The youth organization more than doubled its initial offer of compensation to sexually abused Boy Scouts late Thursday. The offer comes more than a year after the nonprofit filed for bankruptcy as it faced hundreds of abuse lawsuits and individual claims. An attorney representing some of the abuse survivors believes the final settlement could top $1 billion when insurance claims are settled. In addition to the money, Boy Scouts of America will provide access to all internal records related to abuse. Still ahead tonight, unintentional injuries, the leading cause of death in U.S. children. And a 2015 study found that 4.6 million children live in a home with an unlocked and loaded firearm.
My whole world, it felt like my heart shattered into a million pieces. I was just lost, thinking, how did this happen? Why did this happen?
Hear how one mother is hoping her loss will help save others.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Attar. Good evening, everyone. Of course, we did get some rain today, and that kept those temperatures from really warming up. I want to look ahead for the 4th of July because I know a lot of you are trying to plan for that. We are expecting some sunshine for most of the day, but there could be a stray afternoon thunderstorm or shower. But overall, it is going to be a pretty pleasant day. At noon, readings will be around 75 degrees, 76 at 3 o'clock again. There could be an afternoon shower or two. We drop down to around 72 degrees at 6 o'clock and then 66 degrees, mostly clear conditions at 9 o'clock. I think it will just be perfect weather if you're going to be grilling outside. Today, though, temperatures in most spots were a little bit cooler than they were yesterday, but Elmira actually reported readings that were about 4 degrees warmer this afternoon than it was yesterday. We are expecting more rain to go around as we head into the next few hours. In fact, there could be an isolated thunderstorm or two as well that could bring some moderate to heavy rain very briefly. And it looks like all of us will get in on the action from Hornell to Bath to Corning to Elmira. Even in Watkins Glen, we could see a little bit of rain as well. So you're going to be hearing the tapping of this rain through about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and then there could be a few lingering showers in the afternoon. But overall, it is going to be a cool day as the jet stream is now located to our south, and it will stay there, allowing for this cool air to stick around for the weekend. Here's a look at your forecast for your Saturday. Again, there could be a few spotty showers, an isolated thunderstorm or two, but it will be mostly cloudy through much of the morning hours. Temperatures will be very slow to warm up, so we're looking at readings around 62 degrees at 8 o'clock, and we only warm up into the upper 60s by the afternoon, but there should be a little bit more sunshine by the end of the day. So let's take a look at your future radar to see those shower activity for the rest of Saturday. Just a few spotty showers that will come through. A little bit heavier rain by early afternoon into the evening hours. But again, I think that rain will be tapering off. There could be an isolated shower early on Sunday. But overall, I think most of the day will be sunny other than a stray shower or two in the afternoon. Here's a look at your forecast tonight. Cloudy with a few showers. Lows will be in the upper 50s. Tomorrow, look for highs around 72 degrees in Corning, 71 degrees in Elmira, but cooler in Perkinsville at around 68 degrees. We're going to see warmer conditions on the 4th of July. In fact, highs will be in the upper 70s. And then take a look at this. Talk about a roller coaster of temperatures. 90s possible on Monday and Tuesday. Another system comes through. It knocks down those temperatures on Wednesday and Thursday with highs in the mid 70s. And then we're going to be back into the 80s by the end of the week.
Unintentional injuries are the leading cause of death for children in the U.S. According to a 2015 study, about 4.6 million children live in a home with an unlocked and loaded firearm. One mother is hoping that her loss can save others. Mandy Gaither reports.
It just got more than y'all.
It's been more than 5 years since Javonia McDowell has heard her youngest son, Jawan's voice. Their last conversation happened over the phone while the 14-year-old and his brother were visiting family in Savannah, Georgia for spring break.
I said, okay, bud, I love you. Be safe. He said, I love you too, Mom. And we hung up the phone.
4 hours later, McDowell's phone rang again. It was her oldest son.
He said, Mom, are you sitting down? And I said, what is it? And he told me, he said, Jawan had been shot. I couldn't even make sense of what he had just said. And I remember screaming and falling to the floor.
She says Jawan was shot accidentally. He and another teenage family member were playing with an unsecured gun found in an unlocked drawer covered by a t-shirt.
My whole world, it felt like my heart shattered into a million pieces. I was just lost, thinking, how did this happen? Why did this happen?
When it comes to firearms and children, the risk is very real. A study by the American Academy of Pediatrics revealed gun-related visits increased by nearly 39% in hospitals across the U.S. from March to August of last year compared to the same time period in the 3 previous years.
This is something that we can prevent.
Dr. Keisha Fraser-Doe is a pediatric physician in the emergency department at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. At her hospital, she says about 40% of children hurt by firearms are shot unintentionally.
That is why it's so important that parents store their guns unloaded, locked up, with this ammunition separate from the guns.
And before your child goes to someone's house, have a conversation about firearms.
I would rather for you to be uncomfortable by asking someone about a gun in their home than for you to be picking out a casket.
McDowell says the hurt will never go away, but says she keeps her son's memory alive by telling people how he died, hoping it saves a life. I'm Mandy Gaither reporting.
A Nevada family is mourning the loss of their loved one after he died suddenly during football practice earlier this week. Drew Andre has that story.
It started as a regular Monday night practice from 6 to 8 at Legacy High. Towards the end, a player on the freshman team wasn't feeling well, and he took a seat on the sideline.
It was hard for him to explain to me what happened.
Brittany Thorpe's son is on the freshman football team too.
You know, for 13, 14-year-old kids, they're babies. You know, that's traumatic, and that's something that they will always remember.
He was there when his friend, who's known fondly as Chino, passed out on the sideline. Coaches rushed over and an ambulance was quickly called.
My son at that point was when he got really choked up, and he said no, he was not awake. He was still unconscious. Whether he was breathing or not, I don't know.
Chino did not survive. The coroner said they're investigating the cause of death of the 13-year-old boy, who was pronounced dead at 7:40 Monday night. Quote, we're having toxicology and histology tests performed, and additional tests may be done if necessary.
Can't imagine taking your son to practice one day and then you don't get to take him home. You know, it's heart-wrenching.
Brittany's son and Chino were friends since the 6th grade. She says he was a kind soul that will leave an insurmountable hole.
He was like, Mom, he was the nicest kid on the team. You know, he said he was nice to everyone. He was a part of them. You know, it's a football family, you know, and they're all hurting.
Commercial space flight will soon be a reality. But until then, some unsung heroes are braving the trial and error of safety testing. And as Jeremy Roth tells us, there's some real dummies.
The commercial space race is on. Aerospace and tech companies have their eyes on the skies and are in the midst of testing to get their rockets safely in flight. But until those crucial safety tests are completed, you'd have to be a dummy to get on board. So let's meet the dummies that are working hard by sitting still while scientists and engineers break new boundaries. Mannequin Skywalker is leading the charge for Blue Origin, the space tech company owned by Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. Skywalker has yet to visit a galaxy far far, far away, but he has been to suborbital space and back. Bezos himself will be taking a similar test trip soon. Starman, SpaceX's Tesla-driving spacesuit-wearing test dummy, has been at it a bit longer. Since being jettisoned from a Falcon Heavy rocket's payload in 2018, Starman has traveled well over 1 billion miles, according to the tracking site whereisroadster.com. And then there's Rosie the Rocketeer, Boeing's anthropometric test passenger, who will soon make her second test flight to and from the International Space Station. Rosie is modeled after World War II's Rosie the Riveter, and the company says Rosie is a tribute to female pioneers everywhere. Considering it's passive passengers like these that feed back crucial data and bear the horrible brunt of trial and error, it's fair to say these plastic pioneers are the unsung, non-human heroes of spaceflight testing. I'm Jeremy Roth, reporting.
Prince William and Prince Harry were together on their late mother's birthday to unveil a statue of Princess Diana. The monument to the princess is in the Kensington Palace Garden in London. Yesterday would have been Diana's 60th birthday. A small group of family and people involved in the project were on hand to unveil the work. The brothers commissioned the statue 4 years ago to mark her birthday and the 20th anniversary of her death. In a statement, they said they want the memorial to honor their mother as a force for good around the world. A historic letter from Abraham Lincoln is now on display at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum in Springfield, Illinois. An attorney and collector named Guy Fraker donated the letter to the museum. Lincoln wrote the letter in 1854 to an associate. In it, Lincoln talked about his political aspirations and his commitment to public service. Museum officials say it shows a relatable side of our nation's 16th president. Now to music, movie, and comedy news. Here's David Daniel with today's Hollywood Minute.
Do you want to see something really dangerous?
I feel like literally that's all I've been doing since I got here, but okay.
Chris Pratt not only stars in The Tomorrow War, debuting this weekend, he's also an executive producer, the first time he's produced a feature film.
I really didn't know how much more work it was to be a producer on a film versus an actor on a film. I spent 20 years acting in movies, and usually I just show up, and I'm like, okay, we can start working now, you know? And I forget that it's like 1.5 years worth of work to get to that point.
It sounded like somebody trying out a new laugh tonight. Just like, I think I'm going to do it now.
Comedian Tig Notaro gets animated, literally, in her new stand-up special, Drawn. Notaro teamed with animation studio 6 Point Harness for the special, which debuts July 24th on HBO and HBO Max. Just in time for the 4th of July, here's a new lyric video for Ray Charles' There'll Be No Peace on Earth Without All Men as One. It's the latest release from True Genius, a limited edition set featuring 90 of the music legend's greatest songs. The set is due out on disc and on streaming platforms on September 10th. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. This Minnesota woman says she doesn't like a fuss, but she's getting one anyway for her 100th birthday. Louise's siblings, her children, the grandkids, and friends all turned up to wish her well for this big celebration. Her oldest child, Jerry, especially likes surprising his mom.
That's the most birthday I ever celebrated in my whole life. Well, I suppose I better thank him, otherwise I don't know what to say.
And her secret to living for a century? Well, Louise says she doesn't have time to die. She's too busy with projects like sewing quilts and diapers for charity. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Have a fun and safe holiday weekend.